Hi, I'm Nathan Oakley and this is video log number 35, also a part 2, if you like, to John Carpenter's They Live, a movie which is in recent times much easier to expose for the subliminal message or the overall message that it's programmed into our society from its inception or from the movie's inception. So the movie, to recap on what we talked about in the last video log, introduces a protagonist who finds some sunglasses that exposes the subliminal world to him. It exposes that book covers, billboards, and indeed the people he encounters are hidden to regular folk, and he, by means of putting on these glasses, can see all of this. He also introduces a friend, a second protagonist, to the world that we live in. And that character is in loads of much more modern films. He always seems to play a general or a chief of staff or a high-up character. You'll know exactly who I mean when you actually watch the movie. But yeah, so we've got to the point where he's got these glasses, he's trying to sort of figure out the world that he's living in. And once he's figured it out, which takes him about 5 seconds, he starts shooting up the place. So he goes into a bank where he finds a lot of psychopaths and just starts killing them. He shoots up the place, and they start looking at their watches and talking to them and telling everybody else where he is. And they're always very, and I'm keen to point this out, very expensive posh watches that they're wearing. So they communicate to each other and they still get shot, but the last one he tries to shoot presses a little button on his watch, talks into it, and then vanishes into something like what's behind me, just disappears in a puff of electronic smoke. So he's escaping his own sort of bloodlust because he's just sort of rampaged this bank, and he kidnaps a woman who turns out to be a program director for the TV station and takes her back to a house. It's all very sort of Terminator in the way he sort of bundles her in the car, but nevertheless he takes her to his house where he tries to get her to put the glasses on, and she's not very interested until she sort of smashes him on the head with a bottle of wine and throws him out of a 3-story window. So yeah, it gets back to this bit that gets highlighted a lot as well as a massive fight. So between him and the black character, the guy who plays all of the generals and chiefs of staff in other movies, he has a massive fight with him, an enormous fight, trying to convince him that he needs to put these glasses on and see the world as well. And after about a 5-minute fight sequence, he does actually get him to do it, and they join forces, and again go on a bit of a sort of a quest for truth between the two of them, and then end up in a hotel room covered in bruises, and by the end of the scene all of their bruises have faded to nothing, you know, ready for the next scene. It's bizarre. You'll see if you watch the movie, it's slightly end. But at that point we sort of draw a line under truth. We're probably 2/3 of the way through the movie at this point. You know, as soon as we saw watches that made people teleport, that's kind of the point where, yeah, it's not just a presentation of, you know, the truth that we actually have. It's not them hiding the truth in plain sight anymore. This is very much fantasy with them jumping through portals and such. So yeah, so the watch teleports them into this sort of underground dimension. They jump into this hole and they end up somewhere else, and they get chased by guys with the same gadget they have in Ghostbusters to scan for ghosts. It's really bizarre, them using the same props, but yeah, they do. They use the exact same prop. So we've transported into this next dimension, and a human, because they can tell the difference, obviously, having got these glasses or lenses in, start saying, "Oh, hey guys, glad you could make it. Shame you're in rubbishy clothes. Let me show you around the place." So they're suddenly accepted into this society that they've found themselves in, this underground society. And the guy takes them around the place to show them what happens. And he explains that what's actually going on behind me, as I say, this is probably 3/4 of the way through the movie, is a teleportation device with you know, your obligatory globes in the background and stars, and tells the guy that we've got technology that using gravitational lensing gives them the ability to travel to any planet. So yeah, there's your predictive programming for our current considered reality. Now, while I say the first half could be considered true, it's only because it's still going on in very obvious terms, whereas the rest of it, if we didn't know we were living on the flat earth, we wouldn't know that this is still predictive programming. We'd just see this as another bit of allegory, which it isn't. It's complete farcity. But anyway, so they then get shown around the rest of the place, and it turns out that they're actually just in a TV station. That's all it is. It's a TV station. Now, the plot of the film says that there's a signal being broadcast. It never says what, and it never shows what. It only ever shows the TV station, and that being the signal. Yeah, so they run, again, a massive massacre through the TV station, and eventually he finds the programme director who's thrown him off a third-storey, balcony through a window, but he really, really wants this woman. It's, again, for me, that's predictive programming in terms of the type of psychopathic relationships that these people have, and wanting us to be accepting of this. You see it all the time on TV when they show people just being accepting of shitty relationships. It was on another one of my wife's programs, I think it's called The Middle, and the young guy is supposed to be in his late teens. He's basically being told by his girlfriend, let's be cool with seeing other people, and basically having a crap relationship. And they're all like, yeah, that's just what I wanted. And you think, this isn't the kind of idea. But it's the same with this. He's been thrown out of a 3-storey building by a woman, and he's then chasing her down. And she ultimately turns on him and tries to kill him when he's there pointing a gun at the satellite, having just shot the other protagonist in the head. So she's actually got psycho eyes. She's the most psychopathic looking of any character, and she sort of, draws him in like a I don't know what the word is. RSE did a little piece on this. I'm sure the word will come to me. But yeah, so he eventually, the movie rolls to a close with him actually shooting out the quote-unquote signal. So he shoots at a satellite dish, and the TV signal continues to be in broadcast, but it's now being broadcast with these reptiles being exposed. So I think I said it in the last video log, but none of this is allegorical when you know what they're actually saying. They're saying, 1 in 20 of this is psychopaths. In this case, they, draw funny, ugly faces on them. And, they're telling you that we live on a globe. They're telling you that we can, in the future, teleport between dimensions because of gravitational lensing. Now, all of the science of this sort of stuff is now coming out through CERN. And in my opinion, again, I've said this in other video logs, I think the idea behind the next level of programming is to convince us all none of us exist, and that it's all just a computer simulation. But yeah, here we go. This is my best example of, in the same way NASA's models haven't fared well with age, some of the old predictive programming and subliminal messages from movies haven't aged either. You can see a lot of truth and reality and, current society in movies like They Live, which is, I do it all the time, go back through movies and see, well, what have we actually got now that this movie's subliminally showing us years before, so we're comfortable with it when it does come out. And They Live is the best example. It's taken about 20 minutes of video logs, probably a little bit less, 18 minutes of video logs to get it all out there, but it's probably the best movie for this. It hides it all in plain sight, and it's really, really obvious when you've got eyes wide open. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you in the next video log.